Hello and welcome to my channel. Hi, I'm Wendy J. Haney. Today we're going to create another block. This one is called the Shooting Star. Flipping through books, trying to come up with another block that I liked. Yeah, this one will do. And as you can see, I went with a little bit different colors today. I found another stash of, not scraps, but some decent sized chunks of fabric and pulled out some, and this is what we got going on. This is probably looks a little more complicated than it really is. This is a 9.5-inch unfinished block. I'm going to show you how to make a 12.5-inch finished block. We're gonna go big or go home. So you can do this in a 6, 9, or 12, and I will have a coloring template for you and information on the different sizes so you know how to cut things. Because it is a block that's, I'm not gonna get complicated with it because the description and specifications you're gonna need for different sizes will be in the template that you can ask for. This is, as I said, fairly straightforward. We have lots of half square triangles and then some squares. So let's see, what do you need? With your lighter fabric, kind of your background, you need 4 3.5-inch squares. And then we have them for your half square triangles here. Because we need 4 of each combination, we've got our 4 in the center and then our 4 here. I am going to make the half square triangles 4 at a time. So for a 3.5-inch unfinished half square triangle, we're going to start with a 5 3/4 inch, so 5.75 inches square. A square of your background and a square of what I'm going to call your medium color, which is my red here. Then for our other inside half square triangles, you're going to need 2 5.75-inch squares, one of your medium, one of your red, and one of your darker color here. And then we've just got 4 3.5-inch squares of our green. Okay, so your light, you need 4 3.5-inch squares and 1 5.75-inch square for your half square triangles. For your medium color, your red, you're going to need 2 5.75-inch squares. For your darker half square triangles in here, you're going to need 1 5.75-inch square. And then for your dark squares on the outside edges, you need 4 3.5-inch squares. Okay, so this is what we've got. Our red, our background, and our green. My red tone is a little bit different. I did not have enough of the original red I used in my block. Okay, there we go. 2 5.75, 1 5.75, 1 5.75, and 4 3.5, and 4 3.5. All right, now you got what you need. So let's start with our half square triangles. We're going to do our middle one, which is our darker and our red. These are super simple. You're going to put your 2 5.75-inch squares right sides together. Then you're going to go to the sewing machine and stitch 1/4 inch all the way around. And you don't need to pivot in your corners. Just do 1/4 inch, cut it, 1/4 inch, flip it, all the way around. Okay? And I am making these so that you're going to need to trim these up afterwards. As I've mentioned, I really do prefer the trim up method for half square triangles, so I get them more exact. Okay, so you're going to do that with your medium and your dark. This is for our inside, our inside pinwheel here, actually. And then you're going to need to take your background fabric along with your complementary medium tone, and do the exact same thing. So go ahead and get those stitched all the way around, and then I'll show you how to cut them. Now that you have your seam all the way around, now where the magic comes in. Get a ruler that's big enough to get you corner to corner. And usually I have you line up an angle on the edge of your square. This situation, I don't. It may be that these aren't exact, so what I suggest you do is get your ruler and put it corner to corner, matching the intersection of your seams in both of that corners. And there we go. Mine's not quite exact on that angle on the edge, but that's okay. As I mentioned, we're going to have some trim up ability. I love my rotating mat for this. This is a 12-inch rotating mat. That way I can move this, rotate it without touching it, match up my corners again, and cut it. Okay, there we go. So now you have 4 pieces. If we open these up, and I'm going to press to my darker, you're going to finger press, and look at there, we've got 4 half square triangles. Okay, now before you move on to the next step, you're going to want to take these to the ironing board and actually press them. Please don't trim them up just after finger pressing, or you won't have the exactness that you'd like. Okay, I have already done that with my other half square triangles. So these are pressed. We're now going to take that, and I'm using the same ruler. I like my Omni Grid ruler. And here I'm going to put the angle, that 45-degree angle, on the angle of the seam in that half square triangle. And then I want to make sure these need to be trimmed down to 3.5. So I want to make sure there's enough fabric all the way around, including on this side, to be able to trim and square it up nice and neat. So we're going to adjust that a little and trim off the top and bottom. As you can see here, I'm not trimming off a lot, just itty bitty pieces. Use your rotating one, or I have a tendency to just pick it up and flip it anyway. And in this case, you're going to get your corner of your 45 right there in your corner. This, your 3.5, and your 3.5 should now be exactly on the edge. Oh, excuse me. And trim it up. You now have a perfect half square triangle where your angle goes right into the corner, nice and neat. So you're going to go do that with all of your pieces. And then you should end up with 8 half square triangles, 4 of your medium and your dark, and then your medium and your light. Go get those all trimmed up. And as quick as that is, you have everything you need to now put your block together. We have 4 half square triangles for our middle pinwheel. We have 4 half square triangles of our medium and our background, and we're ready to go. Now, this works great when you're doing one block at a time. Maybe you're doing kind of a block of the month kind of style quilt and you only need 1 block, great. But if you're going to do a whole quilt with this and you're going to need more, you might want to check out my video that shows you how to make 8 half square triangles at a time. Then you can do this lickety split and have your half square triangles for 2 blocks, just like that. Okay, now I always do a coloring sheet ahead of time when I've got a block that's got lots of half square triangles to make sure I get them set up. So I'm going to actually put my the first block I did in front of me to make sure I get my layout right. I highly suggest you do this so that you get everything put together right. And then I lay out my block. Okay, so we're gonna do our corner squares first. Let's get those out of the way. Our corner squares first. And then we know we've got our green, our dark, right next to those. And if you just shift them one over, there we go. All right, that helps. Once I got that done, then I put my middle pinwheel in. Okay. And I know my medium, my red, is always going to be on the outside of the blocks because we're going to put another half square triangle there. But if you do this and twist it, get your one set right, twist, turn, whatever, turn. There we go. We have our pinwheel now. Okay, everything's looking good. Now we need our background and our medium. And we know that it needs to match up to make this kind of rectangle design there. So it's pretty easy then to, whoopsie, that's not right. But that is, and I see I had it wrong here too. Yep. This is why I lay it out like this. Nope, there we go. Okay, everything look good? Yep, I've got my star, my 4 background corners. All right, we're good to go. Now, we just need to sew these together. So the quickest and most efficient way I found is to do them like this. So I'm going to take these and I'm going to chain piece them, 1/4 inch seam all the way down. As you can see, I'm kind of flipping them so my ones that have more seams are on the top. Key thing, grab your pins and make sure these, in my opinion, you're going to want to pin to make sure they don't get twisted on you. And then over here, before you pick them up, make sure you pin them so you remember which side you're going to stitch on, because you'd be really unhappy if you stitched over here. So I'm going to 1/4 inch seams here, 1/4 inch seams here, and then we're going to bring those back to get together and move to the next step. As you can see, I have laid my block out once again. Because if you're anything like me, I take them to the machine in an order, well, and then I go unpin them and they get moved around and suddenly I have to rearrange them. Making sure, once again, they're in the right order. Yep, okay, we're good. Now, as you can see, I haven't done any pressing yet, and I suggest you don't. Now that we have our pairs set, now we're going to complete each of our rows by flipping those over, and now we're going to sew a 1/4 inch there. As you're matching these 2 middle ones that have half square triangles, line up your corners, and then what I like to do is I get my seams there and kind of nest them and roll it up and get it nice and neat in my corner. Yep. That way I know it's matched even at that 1/4 inch where it's going to cross. I get that done in the bottom. Everything's lined up, and then I do my pinning there. This will help keep your points good on your 1/4 inch seam. Go ahead and get that done. Once again, back at the table, our rows laid out so we have them right. I then start in my middle to put these 2 rows together. Once again, no pressing yet, but now I want to press these 2 rows in the opposite direction. So in this case, this is always a good one to start with because usually I'd want to press my seam to a block that doesn't have any seams. So I'm going to press these all to the right, which means these all go to the left, which is nice. Then take them to the ironing board, press them, and then Get your seams nicely nested, matching up your 1/4 inch point there. Kind of do a check C. Yeah, we're good. We shouldn't lose any points there. Pin those up and sew that row together, 1/4 inch seam. Then I come back from there because I'm going to show you another technique to minimize the weight of too many seams. And then I do that before I determine the direction to press my other two rows. So let's get the middle one done first. We have our middle row sewed. Now, I flip it over, and sometimes when I do this, my seams shift, but in this case, they won't. So what we want to do is to get rid of this bulk in the middle, I want to pinwheel it. Now, usually I can just twist it and it breaks out those first two stitches in the top. Otherwise, just take out that stitch. Usually I just take out the top stitch, okay? And usually I don't even, and then just twist it. And you can tell which direction to twist it. And by twisting it, you actually kind of end up with a little mini pinwheel in the middle. So we're gonna do that on each of our seams here. This one's being a bugger. See, this is where sometimes it twists on me, and that's all right. We can either snip that a tad or go, okay, we're not gonna pinwheel. Yep, sometimes my seams do that. So you can either choose to pinwheel or not, but this one in the middle, I definitely want to pinwheel. There's just way too much bulk in there. Okay, then once you've done that, we're gonna flip it, and in this case, this pinwheeling did not affect these seams. So all of these can go to your left. Those went to your right, those went to your left, so these all go to your right. So go ahead and go to the ironing board, press your seams, and then put them together and sew your 1/4 inch seam. And there we go. Everything's good. Hopefully your points are nice and neat in the middle. Then once again, I go to the back and go, where can I pinwheel my seams? I can here, but I'm gonna get, if you noticed here, I just kind of twisted my seam a little because I still get less bulk by doing that than by leaving these. So I'm gonna pinwheel where I can. It's always interesting where it will let me pinwheel and keep my seam straight. Oh, there we go. So I'm gonna pinwheel and I'm gonna press. As you can see, I usually don't get the seam ripper out for that top stitch. I just twist and it pulls those stitches out. Okay. I am gonna go press my final press, and there we go. We have a 12.5 inch unfinished block. Yeah, I'm kind of partial to that. Actually, I think I like this one better. I shifted, because of the amount of fabric I had to shift to a little bit darker red. Yeah, I do like this. And then here is our 9 inch block. And then you can also have a 6 inch block. This could be really interesting in a quilt if you did it in a method to combine all 3 sizes potentially. Yeah, interesting. Ooh, huh. Anyway, there you have it. Now you have your shooting star block, and it looks complicated and difficult, but it's really not so much. A little putsy with your pressing, but that's about it. So hope you enjoyed that. Take care, and thank you so much for watching.